Okay, so I'll do a welcome and then we could just jump into it.
Okay, fabulous.
So thank you, everyone. Sorry, I'm doing my out. I need a moment. I'm too excited for this podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Miss Art World podcast. I am your host, Catherine, along with Samuel Cooksey.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Today we have a super special guest who's been on the podcast before, but she has some cool things happening in her life. So we have Klaire Lockheart.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And then we have her husband, Aaron C. Packard.
Yes, thank you.
Who is a photographer. Before we get started, do you both want to share your website and Instagram handle so that people can find you?
I'll go first because my name is more difficult to spell. So my website is Klaire Lockheart. That's KLAIRELOCKHEART.com. And my Instagram handle is just Klaire Lockheart, spelt the same. And if anyone wants to find me on Facebook, look for Klaire A. Lockheart.
Mm-hmm. And my website is aaronpackard.com, AARONPACKARD. And Instagram is packphoto451, PACKPHOTO 451. And I think it's the same for Facebook. Yes.
I don't
it
know.
is. Yes, it is.
We're already friends on Facebook, so I don't remember.
Yes.
Well, and it's nice that if you find one, you can usually find the other really quickly because you're both tagged in a variety of different posts on each other. So that makes it super easy.
Yeah, we spend a little too much time together.
A little bit, especially this past year.
Yeah. So Klaire, you are Miss Art World South Dakota, and that was birthed from your last interview with us. At the very end, we got to talking and thought like this would be a great what's the word I'm looking for? Collaboration. Yes. And you have taken it and ran with it. And so I just want to know everything. I want to know about your experience. And it's been great because Aaron is a photographer and has been along this journey with you. So just go for it.
Well, first of all, I'm very excited to be part of like the Miss Art World family and continue on the idea that you had and bring it out here to South Dakota, because sometimes we do complain that it's a little more rural and the arts aren't as prevalent as we would like them to be. And so it's a fun way to bring this fun concept, especially about the idea that women are people and they should be involved in the art world, and bringing it out here. And should we talk about the coronation first? Because that was the big thing.
I suppose we could.
Okay, so the first thing we did was stage a coronation for Miss Art World South Dakota. And I wanted to do it during March because that was Women's History Month. But we're still in a pandemic. And to make it more weird, conceptual, artsy.
Of course, yes, always.
We wanted it to look like it was a big event, but not actually have a big event. We were able to get into the theater at the University of South Dakota. Was it during their spring break?
Yeah, I think it was just after this. They had just finished the production that ended right at the beginning of spring break. So they had just finished cleaning the theater and such. So we snuck in and
they just renovated the whole theater too. So it's a gorgeous space.
Brand new curtains.
Yes. The head of the department was very
helpful.
Yes, very helpful. Anyway, so,
okay, when you guys said snuck in, I thought maybe you had to go like after hours and like
no.
It's more door open.
Yeah, it's more fun to pretend we were sneaky.
Yes,
but we were in there, and Aaron created all these photographs of me in this fabulous gold gown, which I can elaborate more on later. And I wrote a very formal press release and sent off a package with all the photos to all the different media in the area, which sounds like a lot, but it's South Dakota.
Yeah.
So I ended up having interviews for radio and papers and magazines too. And I think this just kind of goes out of, I've been spending too much time with art theory lately, but with like performance art and action painting in the 1960s, for example, like with Jackson Pollock, and the art isn't the actual painting, it's the act of him putting the paint on the canvas. And the actual painting is the souvenir, and that's not the real art. It's just the reminiscence of it. So I wanted to do something that's like, I guess, anti-action art, because the event really wasn't like a real event. And the photos are a souvenir of an event that didn't happen. But the actual art, I'm going to say, is when people read the interviews or listen to the coverage of Miss Art World South Dakota. And so I know I'm like showing my hand and revealing all this, but I don't like being a snooty gatekeeper with art. I want to make it clear and apparent, and I want people to be in on the joke. And so it's just been kind of fun to see where this gets picked up in local news and in media.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, what I have kind of fun with you, you know, expressing this and being very straightforward to it with that whole comedy aspect of it, but the local news stations taking it too seriously to begin with, and not really.
Oh, really?
You know, it's not till like after the fact they're like, oh wait.
I love that so much that they're like, oh, this is a big deal, and then the joke is totally gone over their head.
Yes, even though it's directly presented to them as what it is.
And I try to write in very clear language, especially with my background of being, I mean, I've taught everything from junior kindergarten through grad school. I want clear language, but there have been some reporters who think I won a beauty pageant. But have you run into anything like that, Catherine, when you've presented Miss Art World, where it's just
100% people, and I had that happen really when I first started a lot. And I think because I was still coming at it kind of with the facade of looking like a typical pageant winner. And so I really tried to push it the other way, to push my makeup, push what I'm wearing to the point where it's not what you would typically see in pageantry. And I really enjoyed that when I was pregnant, because you just don't see pregnant pageant women running around. And so I was able to really play with this, my body changing and then being presented as this beauty queen. I thought was really interesting and fun.
Is that part of the reason you have all these lavish wigs too, like the blue hair?
Yes, yeah, and I have some crazy makeup colors that a pageant woman wouldn't wear, wouldn't do, even with like the tattoos or the fake piercings. You just don't see that within that culture of beauty, and so I really enjoy pushing the perception of what people have for a pageant girl in a completely different way.
See, I never picked up on that. I did notice that you were not wearing the like pageant gowns anymore when we would go to art shows, and then you started wearing like the bodysuits and a bunch of different stuff with it. I never picked on that's why you were switching. I thought it was just you being a weird artist. Honestly.
That too. That hasn't helped. Thanks, Samuel.
See, this is why I need a skeleton bodysuit.
Ah, yes.
It's for my art.
Yes,
it's for our art.
Yes,
you do.
I'm sure. Along with 100%. The 12-foot skeleton for the front yard. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I find fun about the whole project and concept and ideas, and I think it's because we've been playing with some of these ideas of collaborating ourselves with creating some different characters, and now starting to photograph and create some series. I mean, everything's still in its very early stages. But
Is this a Thunder
yeah, with the
Domesticity?
Thunder Domesticity that we've been playing with as well, which hope to get started back up on here soon, now that the weather has gotten somewhat bearable in South Dakota.
Do you want to explain what the Thunder Domesticity project is?
I think you would be better at explaining it, because you have that better.
If we're going to be so polite, this podcast
Yes.
is going to last 3 hours.
No, just you go for it. You go for it.
Well, Thunder Domesticity is I didn't even finish my sentence, but I was ready for a great build up and then I got distracted.
I'm sorry.
No. The Thunder Domesticity comes from like a joke where we're thinking of 2 June cleavers enter, 1 June cleaver leaves. So it's that combination of Thunderdome and then domesticity, and pushing the absurd notion of glamour, of beauty in the post-apocalypse, because during this last year we've been consuming a lot of media, and I like watching bad sci-fi movies and making fun of them. And especially in apocalypse movies, women don't exist, or if they do, they're treated really terribly, and they're usually in very skimpy outfits and very impractical boots. And it's
I
very
figured that was just because it was harder to find material to make clothing, right?
That's why they all have, fresh shaved underarms and beautiful eyeliner in every scene.
Well, when the cars rust, it's easier to make razors. So you can,
that's what it is.
Daniel's really thought about this.
Yes. And the men are so chivalrous, they're scruffy just to sacrifice themselves.
Yes.
So the one woman in their whole community can be gorgeous.
Right.
But I been taking, I made a clone of a vintage dress and then destroyed it and repaired it, because I think all of these skills that are typically like women's work, such as sewing and mending, would be very valuable in the post-apocalypse. And so I keep repairing and destroying and repairing the clothing. And I've started actually getting some vintage clothing to destroy on purpose and distress and repair for this series. But it should be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Especially because like the weaponry I have includes like a giant fork and spoon, and we've used my chainsaw arm as well, because that's important.
Yes.
Are you doing this like in the city, or you have different scenes you're doing it in? Like, what's the background look like, I guess?
Right. Well, so far we've used more of rural areas and open, generally like some sort of a sunset going on behind and turning the whole sky red. And I'm actually doing all sorts of lighting on location with them and such to do some interesting effects and turn them into more of like strange movie poster, over idealized yet
we've
romanticized visions of this Thunder Domesticity.
Because we've done state parks and also like the gravel roads on the way to locations too have been really nice.
And we also, I mean, like within the costumery, we had this great serendipitous moment with it in the fall where we were like, oh, wouldn't it be great to get one of those big spoons and forks that people put on their walls to have as some of her main weaponry. And so we went into one of the local thrift stores and turned the corner, and right there was just like the perfect giant fork and spoon. So we've done some test shots, but now she's distressed them and made them more rustic and bloody, you might say.
Action
to add to. So we'll be hopefully taking advantage of some good thundercloud weather coming up out here on the prairie and getting some good dramatic images to go with.
So with the word, like the playoff words like Thunderdome, is it going to be more pieces that are built like steampunk, or is it more of are you going to try to integrate different types of apocalypse?
Well, I mean, I think it would probably, some of the aesthetic, once we get some other stuff going, might have more of the diesel punk as opposed to the steampunk.
I have goggles. And
yes, you do have goggles
to protect your eyes from all the steam.
Yes, so that does play into a steampunk version. So who knows? There's many definitions that can take place on that.
But we definitely derailed from what we were talking about.
Yes, we did.
Earlier.
I'm sorry. I'm good at causing segues in conversations. So
yes, good tangents. But we were talking about how you help document
Yes.
the Miss Art World South Dakota.
And it was fun to really bring it into the theater setting, and then adding a little extra light to give you that more spotlight feel. And then the posing, and then there is some video that was shot as well. And I mean, you've saw one little kind of cheesy 70s play of overlapping images that I put on Instagram recently. But
it's like your cyberpunk promo video.
Yeah, I might be doing. There might be a little bit more of that happening. We'll see.
But since I have access to a fantastic photographer, dare I say, the best photographer in all of South Dakota. I mean, there's more than 2 of you, so
yes, there are a few photographers out there.
But we've been taking my sash with us when we travel too, because I love this thing. Thank you so much. I'm gonna wear it everywhere, every chance I get, just because it's really kind of fun to go into public spaces and we're all set up and Erin is doing the photography, and it's fun to watch people walk by and think that they've intruded on an important event.
Yes.
So I wonder how many people go home and they're like, I saw Miss Art World South Dakota at the state capitol today.
Have you had anyone like come up and talk to you, or not yet?
Not yet.
We haven't been doing, we're still overly cautious, and so we haven't been doing big events yet, but
although there was somewhere, was it when we were at the Chamberlain area where it seemed like we saw somebody else leaving with a sash. I don't know if you saw that. There was a woman that was leaving. She wasn't wearing it. She was holding it. So I have no idea what it was for, but it was somebody leaving with a sash, and we were coming in with somebody wearing another sash.
I think the people,
like, what's happening?
That would explain why the people around were pretty confused. But
yes,
Chamberlain is a place where there's the monumental dignity statue.
Yes.
So it's a large metal statue of a Lakota woman with a star quilt behind her. So it's like a newer landmark for South Dakota. So we're trying to hit like places that are actual art and also embracing kitsch as well.
So yeah, that'll be some adventures this summer when we get out to the western part of the state, where more of that kitschy tourist attractions are a little more prevalent. Although we'll probably have to go by the Corn Palace at some point.
Ooh.
Get a good shot in front of the Corn Palace.
Well,
that'd be good.
That's good. That's a good idea.
I think it's because I had to reread, is it Greenberg's Avant-Garde and Kitsch essay in the big art theory book a few times too many, since I taught modern art history this last semester, and I just went with all my students through all their existential crises, and now I am firmly on the camp that it's mean to say things you don't like is kitsch, and we should stop being so snooty as artists, because kitsch can be fun and it has a place within the art world.
Can you, I'm going on a tangent now too, but can you talk a little bit about kitsch? Because I've had conversations with Samuel and my family about it, but I don't feel like I can explain it the way it should be explained.
Oh, well, going off of, it's Clement Greenberg, right?
I believe so, yes.
So was it the 50s? He was a big proponent of Pollock, and his main point in his essay was, avant-garde, like Picasso, it's the best art ever, but stupid peasants, they like this artist who paints things that look realistically, and he's dumb and I hate him. And that's like the gist of the article. And when you overlap that with the idea in modern art, so modern with a capital M, and that's this art is universal and everyone understands it, and you don't need a fancy art degree to understand, even though you totally do, but you have that overlapped, so you just have these layers of pretentiousness and snootiness.
Yes. So you've done a good job explaining the anti-kitsch.
What do you mean?
But what is
kitsch?
Kitsch?
What the anti-kitsch is.
Yes.
It's one of these things where you have to define all the pieces of it. So they have like the avant-garde is supposed to be this edgy, brand new, never done before. But kitsch, he's defining as things that are like representational or the status quo.
Right.
But it's developed more into things that are mass produced and easily digestible. And I think, like, for me, a better analogy is like kitsch is like junk food.
Yes.
It's fun, it's delicious, but you shouldn't consume it all the time because that's bad for your diet.
Right. It's the Niagara Falls postcard with Niagara Falls, with all the pictures of Niagara Falls within the lettering of Niagara Falls. That would be kind of like your overwhelming, perhaps definition of kitsch, but then also coming into a lot of perhaps more local types of work, or I'm not sure how much around your area of the prevalence of the
inoffensive
Well,
abstract hotel art.
well, abstract, and not so much. I don't consider that so much kitsch, but more the art fair. And the art fair of the type with the painted saw blades and the
welded pigs out of gas tanks
and forks, things like that, and that's really developing into the kitsch, real, I'd say contemporary, production of kitsch amongst craftspeople.
It's like
I would say.
cheesy decoration too, like black velvet paintings.
Oh yes,
and there's all these different levels of it. But what I find super annoying is when you have people who are, I'm an artist, and they'll insult you by saying your work is kitsch, and it's like, no.
Or yes, that's what I was going for. You got it. Yeah. That's exactly what I was doing here.
And that throws them off guard too.
Yes.
So quickly, or like to kind of recap, kitsch is just where it's like everywhere and not necessarily an individual piece that it's easily replicated.
Sometimes,
yeah. I mean, you could use that. I mean, depending, there are certain professors that I had that definitely would say kitsch is the crap or things like that. But I don't know. I find it fun to use the idea of kitsch at times and to really actually push that kind of idea. I mean, there's one idea that we've had and such and playing with, and then also a friend of ours, Epiphany Nedler, who does a really good idea well at sort of playing off the whole ideas of the tourist type of experience.
Midwest nice art.
Yeah, Midwest nice art.
But she's a South Dakota artist too, and like documents tourists at tourist traps. So she's doing like a metacognitive kitsch, perhaps.
Sure.
Let's just coin a bunch of terms and write our own theory book. Hopefully that makes sense or aligns with what you've been trying to say.
Yeah. I find it hard to explain to people. Like, I feel like kitsch when you see it, but if someone has never heard that term before, you're like, how do I explain this to people?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, like for myself, because I'm one of those people who grew up with two art professors for parents, so the ideas of kitsch and modern versus post versus this ism and that ism, just kind of grew up with all of that, and of course it's all there. I know exactly what that, or not exactly what it is, but have existed within it. And for somebody to not know what it means, it's like, wow, yeah, I guess there are people that didn't quite get that when they were growing up.
Did you, growing up with two art professors, did you have a weird childhood? Yeah. I'm afraid for my child, because he'll be like, performance art is so normal and it's weird, but
yeah. Well, it was I mean, I think there was a little bit on mine on some of the performance stuff that I got to, that was back in the 70s, but it was like, oh god, not that again.
Should you warn her about how her child might rebel? Because
because I had to run off and join the Navy to rebel against my family, so I went and tried to be conservative for a few years. It didn't work out. I ended up right back in art school. But
did you?
Yep. But there's growing up with a father who was a sculpture and drawing professor. Coming home from kindergarten, having a full critique before something went on the refrigerator. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
Maybe don't be that hard.
Yeah, don't be like that. He came from a very classical, education, so that was, rough at times, but it ended up okay.
She can organize like preschool art critique groups.
Oh yes.
All the preschoolers are crying because I called their artwork kitsch.
I just want to see
No.
preschoolers discussing the quality of line within their
wait.
pieces with each other.
I'm coining a new term. Instead of kindergarten, her kid can go to Kitchenergarten.
I would love to know a little bit more about your background, Aaron, and how you got into arts and photography and.
Okay, I'll do a quick history or timeline. So like we said, I grew up with art professor parents. Originally, when I first started college, was a theater major. Then that's when I rebelled and ran off and joined the military for 4 years. 2 years would have been enough. I don't regret it, but 2 years would have been enough. Then after that, ended up back in art school because of meeting a photojournalist actually at a certain time before that. Kind of re-sparked my interest in photography, even though I'd been kind of doing it on the side since I was a kid. So I went back to school for that for a little while, then decided school was great, but I was going to head to San Francisco to see what I could do. So early 90s, found myself in San Francisco, working at restaurants and such down South of Market, and then ended up getting into photo assisting and did that for about 5 years out there. Ended up working with this fantastic photographer by the name of Doug Menuet for about 4 years as his first assistant. Got to travel the world and see all the different sides of advertising, commercial, corporate photography, all of that while doing my own stuff. And then broke out on my own just in time for the .com bubble to burst. And so struggled for a few more years in San Francisco. But I mean, throughout that time, artistically was, had a lot of friends who were early people in Burning Man, and then ended up heading out to that. I think my first year was in '96. They'd all been doing it for a while by that time, and then ended up doing that for 7 years while I was out there as well. Ended up with that, hooking up with this artist, Mark Kornblatt, who started this thing called the Temple of Waterboy out there, where we did performance pieces, scuba diving in the desert.
And that was the first day I met you. You were giving the overview of your art history.
Yes.
And you showed us a video of you scuba diving in the desert.
Yes. So if one wanted to search Temple of Waterboy / Buckethead / Burning Man,
there's imagery out there.
I'm the stunt double. So usually Mark was the person, but then I would be doing it as well. So if you see more tattoos in the suit, that's probably me.
Then how did you end up back in South Dakota?
Well, it was, the .com thing had burst. The amount of photographers in San Francisco had kind of become a glut, and there wasn't that much work happening after that, and burnt out a little bit, and decided to head back to South Dakota, and came back here and just started working a little bit more consumer photography for a while, and then built up clients and becoming more commercial based out here, working on my own art, and then finally decided that getting an MFA might be a good idea. So I finished up my last little bit of my BFA that I still hadn't finished up, and then went straight into grad school, finished that, and that's where I met this lovely lady.
See, I graduated a year before him, so I'm older and
she
wiser.
Is older and wiser, definitely. So I guess, I don't know, what did I miss? Did I miss anything in that short history of Aaron Packard?
Of Aaron C. Packard Productions.
Kind of glossed over a few things, but that's kind of where it came through, got me here eventually.
And how long have you guys been together?
A little over 3 years, I think.
Yeah, a little over 3 years. Because actually we met in grad school, but it wasn't till after grad school that
away. And then I came back.
Yeah. And I sent a goofy Thanksgiving message one time, and suddenly we were out for dinner, which she didn't even realize was the date.
I didn't know we were dating.
I knew it was a date. She
After
didn't
I
know it was a
realized
date.
we were dating, I told him, if we ever get married, please let me know.
Yes.
So
I told her on the way to the Elvis.
yeah, so we went out to Las Vegas. This is right before the pandemic hit. And yeah, we were in the limo on the way to Elvis. And he's like, oh, by the way, we are getting married now.
She knew we were getting married.
So we had a very kitschy
Yes, we had a very kitschy
Wedding.
wedding. That was very
Elvis
fun.
impersonator in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. No, we eloped. We didn't really tell anybody. Ran out there, did that, had a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And then we were planning on having a
Thank you for not coming to our wedding reception.
Oh
But-
my gosh.
but that's been delayed for a while. So
Yeah.
that might still happen
Yeah.
in the next year.
You might get
or
an
so.
invitation. We'll send you a postcard.
That'd be great.
Which version of Elvis?
Well, we had what was it? We had more of a he was in a kind of a 50s
Was he
outfit.
in the white suit?
Oh no, he was in the white suit. Yes.
We had,
But
like,
he
the-
was not, you
Lord.
know, yes. He was much more in shape Elvis, a little younger. It was really funny when we were because it's one of those chapels that a couple of different characters use. So the one before us was running a little long, so we were out in the lobby waiting with our Elvis, and he turned to us and he said, we looked at your website because it was with your email, and we don't take very good photographs. We're like, it's okay. We know.
That's amazing that they were worried about that.
But yeah, so that was fun. But there was I mean, not to spend too much time on our relationship, but I mean, there was definitely a key moment where it was 6 months, a year beforehand, not even 6 months or something, that Klaire asked me at what point of the relationship we were in, and I said, probably the parachuting Elvis phase of our relationship.
Oh, is this when I made you the
And
site-specific ephemeral installation in your library?
Yes, and I came home one day, and the library in our house, the ceiling was covered with these dangling parachuting Elvises made out of paper.
Oh, that's cool.
And I pretty much knew at that moment that we were gonna run off and get married. So
It was meant to be. I love the whole Elvis spin
I'm
throughout.
not a huge Elvis fan,
No,
but
but
other than the kitschiness and the idea of Elvis
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Mhm.
To bring it back to Miss Art World.
Yes,
go
back to that.
a bit. What is, like, obviously you've done Miss Art World. Are you guys going to try to have a Miss Art World in each state? And is that something that you want to do for the next, like, every year, add someone else? Or is it like, what's the plan? Because I feel like there's a plan, or like the starting of a plan, but maybe it hasn't been thought out yet, or
So, and we haven't talked about it. Klaire and I haven't talked about it, but so I would love to grow, the family and have, one in each state. My only issue is I don't know if this is right or if this is wrong, but I really want whoever is representing Miss Art World to stand for something. Like I really enjoy Klaire's work because she is a feminist. She has a concept. She's, like, to me, she's a feminist fighter along with me, and I really want that to be like a Miss Art World family, but also a Miss Art World army. Like, we're all in this together, fighting for equality for not just women, but for everybody. And so I in my mind, I tend to be really picky on, like, who I would want to let into our family. But I also don't know if that's the right way to go about it.
you
Oh.
could just run it as an actual, like,
Pageant? We could have a pageant.
it's kind of like a pageant, but you kind of have this comedy around it too, as well, to where it's no one is actually coming to you. You are looking at people or female artists in that state, and then you send them an invitation, like you've been accepted to be like to run for Miss Art World South Dakota. And then these artists get it. And if they reply to you, then you can kind of have an open dialogue. And it's not necessarily that I mean, if they did reply and you got everyone to reply, it would be like running, but it'd be like this kind of offbeat showcase of art, and not like they could be dressed up in like formal gowns, but it's really them showcasing their art, which is also dressed up in a formal gown. I don't know. That was the first thing popped in my head. Everyone's in a formal gown, I guess.
Well, I love on the Miss Art World website where there's the call for, this is a very prestigious award and you can have it through your whole life and through death and so forth. And I think it would just be fun if you have it where people are, I guess, like-minded like us, where we are fighting for equality and have a stance with our artwork. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, I wouldn't think it has to be one per state. If there's another Miss Art World who happens to live in South Dakota, I'm not going to fight her. That'd be cool. I think
that you could integrate Miss Art World with the Thunderdome, and maybe it can only be one.
No, I want more people to be artists and activists, and I think that would be fun.
You could you could have a battle, and where you take a bunch of photos with your apocalyptic weaponry and baby and performs art pieces.
Samuel just wants violence.
He wants violence.
And I don't even think it has to be specifically women. Like I would totally be open to male or gender fluid Miss Art World. Like to me, it's more the merrier. So yeah, I don't know. We should have a side brainstorming, Klaire, and see what we can come up with, because I would love to have tons of us running around doing all kinds of stuff.
Well, as I mentioned, I've been doing a deeper dive into the history of modern art because I was teaching that course when I was adjuncting. And one of the themes that stood out is there are always these groups and pods of artists where you have all these artists and art collectors and critics, and it's looking back through a 21st century lens, we're like, wow, isn't that great that Monet and Manet and Degas and Cassatt and Morisot were all friends? It's like, no, they were actively seeking each other out and working together. And I feel like we don't have that sort of network, or at least out here in South Dakota. So having this big army of Miss Art Worlds, whether they are like women or men and non-binary and everybody, but who have that similar thematic attribute within their work. I think that actually would be quite interesting. And I think it'd be really fun 100 years from now when they're flipping through, I don't know, whatever era we're in. Are we in postmodern now?
Probably a few more posts.
Whatever. Yeah. But there's the chapter on just Miss Art World-ism, and get this nice bio about Catherine and her artwork and how she just set off this great chain reaction.
Yes.
It'd be fun.
That would be great.
We gotta get
that
some,
would be the dream.
Writers involved.
So after today's podcast, if you get inundated with all these requests, hey, I make cool art. Can I be a Miss Art World?
Well, speaking of podcasts, not to like overly plug things, but somebody has her own podcast now dealing with all of this history of modern art.
Yes. Please share that. Also, please share your YouTube channel that you both are doing as well.
Oh, we haven't done much with that. We got to get back to work on that one.
But don't sell us short.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so my current podcast, it's a short run, and it's just the history of modern art with Klaire, and it's basically an introductory college level, super snarky and salty look at the history of modern art. And I just go through one movement at a time. I started with Impressionism, and I'll end up with postmodernism. And then on YouTube, we have the Klaire and Aaron Show.
Yes, the Klaire and Aaron Show.
It's a fake TV show, but it stars us, and we're delightful.
Right.
You are delightful.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what it is. We cover on the Klaire and Aaron show, covers whatever topics we happen to be dealing with at the moment.
Like Existential Crisis Tuesday?
Yes, we have an Existential Crisis Tuesday
Or
episode.
our specific artwork too.
Yes, or talking about what projects we're working on at the time.
For your podcast, Klaire,
Yes.
where can people find it? Just
It's on pretty much every podcasting platform. I think it's on 7 or 8, but you can find it on like Apple, Spotify. It's on my website, clairelockhart.com. And if you follow me on Instagram, I'm really obnoxious about it lately. And I post a lot of quizzes in my stories. That's fun to see people just like, did you listen to it? Because I'm a teacher.
Yes.
and does it drop every week? You have a new episode?
Yeah, I've been doing them on Tuesdays because we have Existential Crisis Tuesday, which is a good day to deal with all of the existential dread you have of being an artist in the current world. And I thought it was just a nice way to add some comfort.
And when you
We
say
need it.
quizzes, someone could actually take a quiz about your podcast.
Well, on my stories and Instagram, I will sometimes put up multiple choice questions or do polls too.
Yeah.
Like I just did the Cubism episode. And so I did a poll and it's like, Pablo Picasso, is he a role model or a flapping a-hole?
I know what I would vote for.
I think it got 90% towards that
Yes.
direction.
Yeah.
So go listen to my podcast, or at least have done some research. We have totally derailed your podcast.
No, this is great. This
We
is
don't know
how a
how-
podcast should go.
We don't know how to interact with anybody since
Yeah.
this last
it,
year. That's why we keep making weirder and weirder art and
Yes.
more and more elaborate.
Yeah, so
Yes.
so soon actually I think one of the next Thunder Domesticities, but I don't know, I could see Miss Art World making an appearance with we in this storage space that my family has. We have this like 1950s what do you call that color of blue? Aqua blue refrigerator and stove.
I saw the same refrigerator and stove in the like American History Museum in Washington, D.C. several years ago.
It's just somebody, you know, it's just that someone has had the idea that somebody would want to buy these and rebuild them. Yes. And but you know, that's never materialized. So I think I'm going to take them out into this field type area and set up a little kitchen scene.
I think that was a catalyst on
Yes.
Thunderdome,
Yeah, that was one of our
because we
initial
were
ideas.
looking in the storage unit and it's like, what do we do with this? Let's drag it in the woods. I can make a costume. But when we're able to travel,
yes,
we need to go down and visit.
yes.
Rope you in on some of these shenanigans, because last time we talked, Catherine, you had promised that you had some models for my Brodalesque series.
Yeah, Samuel right here.
What is it? I'm always down for weird art, but what?
Samuel's my star performance person. Like if I need him, if I need someone to do something weird, I'm like, all right, Samuel.
Do you have anything in the works?
No.
Oh, that's okay.
I am
understand.
lucky to be able to continue this podcast. And I think it will, as I get more used to being a mom and not being obsessed with having the house clean to a certain level. Like I'm hoping this shifts and I'll get back to doing art stuff. And Samuel's actually really good about like, hey, you need to start doing some art stuff. I'm like, I know. But nothing in the works yet. But I know that if there's something that comes up, Samuel's my go-to guy.
And then we rope Eli in.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, I have
like,
brothers, husband, all kinds of cousins that will pose for you at any time.
Well, you should explain to Samuel a little bit about the Brodalesque experience.
Have you seen these pictures yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's a reaction against how in Western art, particularly in museums, they like to showcase artwork almost exclusively by men artists of nude women having like passive poses. Like this really comes from Orientalism. And so they have a character called the Odalisque, and she's supposed to be just like nude and lounging and swooning on sofas and cushions. And it's, you get a little tired of it when you're not the audience for the male gaze. And so in reaction of it, I am pointing out how ridiculous and unnatural this is by putting contemporary men in these same poses. But instead of having them in like the fantasy of the harem, my parody of that is the man cave, because it's a space I'm not supposed to be allowed in. So there are a lot of paintings of my wonderful, amazing, supportive, helpful husband, Aaron, lounging on cushions.
Yes. But she doesn't let me take all my clothes off.
No.
Oh.
Well,
don't
in
know.
South Dakota, I have been told specifically that they will not display my artwork if I paint nude men. And so I often use khakis as a metaphor for nudity. So if you see a man in a painting of mine with khakis, that's code. He's naked. I mean, nude. Read too much on the naked and the nude.
They won't put up any nude men?
Nope.
Why?
They're
It's South Dakota.
Yes, so their committees get uncomfortable with that being in their establishments.
Yeah, yes. I don't want to be like mean on the art scene in South Dakota, but like the edgiest you could typically get is, I like color, or one time I saw a buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's there's a little bit more.
No, there's more to that
stuff
but
out here, but
that's more the establishment.
Yes.
Is it the same on both sides? Do they not put up any female nude art?
I've seen plenty of female
they'll
nudes.
display female nudes.
Yes.
Okay. And is it just top, or is it fully nude for female?
I've seen fully female nude way more often.
Yeah, I've seen paintings with full.
I've seen some photography too, as long as it's yeah. So there is that old school divide that women are models and men are artists here. Ooh, that's a smooth transition to my Miss Art World gown, which I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, you should do that.
Are my transitions less suave when I point them out? But for the gown for this, because I don't come from the pageantry background, I come from I study gender performativity and I read Simone de Beauvoir too many times. And so I wanted to engage with that history of, men are the artists and women are the models that comes from Western art. And I also, of course, want to incorporate humor into my work, because when you live in a more conservative area, if you talk about things and use the F word like feminism, you can get blacklisted pretty easily. And so I use dinosaurs as a metaphor of struggles women have been fighting for since what feels like the dawn of time. And so I set up these little scenes with a photography raptor, and I made this tiny little, is it a view camera?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I learned how to fold bellows for the camera, and it's teeny tiny. And then we have an airplane going overhead. Sorry about that.
We have a helicopter going overhead.
If that's coming up,
we're about 2 blocks from the hospital, so occasionally we'll get the emergency helicopter flying right over the house.
Anyway, I made this photography raptor, and then made a tiny little beret and ascot to establish that is the artist. And I made a little plinth, a model stand with like a velvet drape, and sewed these tiny little cushions, and then put a dinosaur that is the model. So that dinosaur is very nude. And I also made one with a painter. So it's a Spinosaurus with like an apron and a little tiny paintbrush. And then I made this little bitty easel and canvas and put a different dinosaur on the model stand as well. And we wanted to do this to see how people would react to just like the overall composition, because I think most people would gender the dinosaurs and refer to the artist as he and the models as female, but they're plastic dinosaurs. They don't have gender.
No.
And I made these little scenes, and then Aaron photographed them for me, and we transferred it onto big silk screens. And I printed all this gold shiny lame fabric so I could make my big long gold dress. It's pretty labor intensive,
Yes.
but I
It's
think the joke is worth
awesome.
it.
Literally, I can't do any of that, and I wish I could because it's just amazing.
So
Well-
what's your favorite medium to work in?
I love doing oil on canvas, and that's what I enjoy the most, but I do keep going into like fiber arts, not totally intentionally, but because I actually hate sewing, but I know I can make the thing better than if I outsourced it to somebody else. And so that's why I keep making all these dresses and costumes and aprons and tiny dinosaur hats. And
Mhm.
I think I just like being really difficult too, because, oh, which old dead philosopher is it? But they're talking about like the hierarchy of artists. And they say that painters are the lowest of the craftsmen because they don't know how to make anything they're making depictions of. But I'm very obstinate.
Yes, and you
Determined.
make everything that you make the painting.
Yeah, I
of.
make the things and then I paint them for a double, like, screw you, Aristotle, or whatever guy, I don't remember.
Socrates. No,
Something.
Plato. Well, it went through all of them.
Yeah, I
Really,
don't
they
know.
they all fed off each other. Those observations that they made.
Do you have other gowns or outfits that you're working on for the Miss Art World
I
stuff?
have not yet. I think because I haven't had a chance to wear this gold one often enough and get the fun out of it.
Yep.
What are you're asking so much, Katie. You're like, hey,
Have
Is
you
the ne-
made these outfits
where
yet?
Is the next one, here are my measurements and this is my address.
No, I
Too
think
much.
I think that comes when we can like escape for a month and go to LA and hang out, and then you guys just create a whole team thing together, I think. And then I can go hang out with my old friends who live in LA.
Are you
and get to see
helping
them
write?
again.
Are you helping write the grants for this? Because
I
this
don't know,
gets
maybe.
expensive
Yes,
fast.
yes. I'll have to find some commercial gigs or something to pull us out there.
Be great. No, I love that you can make your own because that's part of my struggle is I don't know how to sew or anything. So I'm looking for outfits that will push the limits to or create a conversation. And
Mhm.
most of it takes a long time to find something online that can do that, but I love that you can take a concept and do it yourself. It's amazing.
Well, this grew out of earlier work that I did where dealing with like the concept of like gender roles and gender performativity, a lot of times when women are growing up, they're told like, don't do that, you'll get dirty. And so keeping your clothes clean is just like a gendered expectation. And so I started appropriating these vintage like laundry soap ads, like from Lux Laundry Soap. And these are from the 40s and 50s, and they are so incredibly sexist. They're funny now. And I converted those into a pattern, which I printed. And so I purposefully made these dresses and aprons about vintage laundry soap. And then I would wear them in my studio. So for printmaking, for painting, for teaching, when I was in the wood shop, when I was in graduate school, and totally destroyed these things that would actually be very, like, these would probably be the most expensive clothes I own, but I wear them and they're ruined. But I feel like those will be more valuable when someone takes them on Antiques Roadshow in the future because I put my artistic intent upon them.
I think you're right.
I just need to make everything more complicated.
Yes, definitely.
What were we joking about? Because the MFA is a terminal degree, so we're terminally educated.
I'm gonna steal that one.
Do it.
So we are at an hour.
Oh my
yes,
goodness.
we are.
Sorry.
We have
So-
just rambled on.
Do
It's
haven't
so
we?
not
much-
say sorry, but if I don't cut us off, we'll
Yep.
be like 3 hours later and no one will listen to this podcast.
Nope. We got to cut it off now.
Okay, good thing you checked the time.
I'm trying to be better at the being time conscious because sometimes I get into it. I'm like, oh, that was a really long podcast. But thank you guys so much for coming on here. It's nice to kind of catch up with what you guys are doing, and I think in a few months we can do it again and just see where you both are at and what's happening.
And see where, you know, Miss Art World is expanded to.
Yes.
Oh no, is Aaron going to start wearing my sash now?
Yeah, I'll send you one. I'll send you your very own. You can be both with your sashes out and about.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure to catch up.
Yeah, and it was great to be on. Thank you.
And make sure you do one more plug before we sign off. So where can we find you guys, or what's the best place to find you?
Go for it.
You can find me on my website, clairelockhart.com. That's KLAIRE LOCKHEART. And I have links to everything for Instagram and so forth on there too.
And best for me is aaronpackard.com, AARONPACKARD. And yeah, I've got links to social, and I even have links to my new NFT gallery.
Nice. I know what that means now.
I'm kind of figuring it out as I go.
Oh, good. And thank you guys for listening. Like always, you can find us at missartworld.com. We are also on YouTube. So if you would like to come and watch us all talk to each other through Zoom, you can do that at Miss Art World on YouTube. And we also have our Instagram page, Miss Art World Podcast. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.